Family for coming out today. Thank you, Mr. Boone and Mrs. Boone. They supporting us as we struggle against social injustice and all the ills of our societies, and addressing our lawmakers and holding them accountable and doing it non-violently and doing it in unity. And I'd like to ask Mr. Boone, anything you'd like to say or address the people?
First, I want to apologize for arriving late, but I wanted you to know that this is an occasion that I just couldn't miss, because it sends a powerful message that our movement is not dead.
All right, all right.
It sends the message that it is alive and expanding.
Yes.
And this because those in power, that 1%, always thinks that you're going to protest and fade. And you're not doing that. It's also important that we understand that we are occupying to become unoccupied.
All right.
What we mean is that we need to become unoccupied from a industrialized prison system that places more black people in prison than they do in college. We need to be unoccupied from unemployment.
That's right.
You may have seen the latest statistics. They show that we gain as a nation 200,000 jobs. But if you look at it closer, you will find that the black unemployment rate has gotten worse. It's still more than double that of the white unemployment rate. We must become unoccupied from politicians who give the impression that they represent you, but they don't. They are more concerned about the corporate interests than they are by the voters who elect them. And this has to change. Another point that I need to make here is that black visibility does not mean that you have black representation. It's very important that you understand that. So what we need to do is continue to occupy in the tradition of Dr. King, in the tradition of Frederick Douglass, in the tradition of Y.T. Walker. And I understand Jason Brown has just viewed a documentary on Dr. Y.T. Walker. And while I'm speaking of Jason, I want to salute him and all of the other organizers for bringing us together today. When I talked to Mark yesterday, he made it clear that Jason was the man. Yeah, but so it's important that we also fight for the First Amendment and fight to correct obvious wrongs. If you saw the Free Press this week, you may have noticed that we are fighting for the First Amendment, and as a result of the burning of copies of the Free Press, as the result of the city fencing our boxes so that our readers cannot gain access to the Free Press. Now, you may have noticed that we have, because of this, the Justice Department is now investigating this situation. But the Justice Department would not have been here if the Free Press were not fighting back and fighting for the First Amendment and fighting for you. So we need to understand that. Now, too often we start celebrating before we win the game. Well, an example of the importance of fighting is in Sandra Sellers, a prize-winning photographer.
Yes. Yes.
You may know the story. Sandra Sellers, in your presence, is a history maker. She is the first woman newspaper photographer to cover an investiture in the history, 232-year history of the Virginia Supreme Court. So I think we need to give her recognition. While we are giving recognition, I also want to specifically recognize my wife, who played a large role when we were strategically camping on my front yard. And also a new Raymond, where he's enjoying the playground. But there is another Ray Boone, two other Ray Boones, as a matter of fact. So, and we are hopeful and confident that they will carry the Ray Boone spirit. So, it is important that we also emphasize solidarity. We call this the hood movement. And that is significant because the problems that confront us burden the hood more than any other area. And I can tell you that if you don't stand up for your rights, your human rights, it's not civil rights, it's human rights, then you don't deserve them. So it's important that you understand that. You're fighting for human rights. Now, the other point is that we can do more together than we can do apart. And that means that the hood and the occupied Richmond movement must join hand in hand because the objectives are the same. We need to understand that one of the most powerful resources is mission. Mission determines your actions. That's why it was important that you distributed that yellow sheet. I don't know whether you remember it or not, but it told what you stood for. And really it's conservative because what it is calling for is America to do what it promised to do.
Yes. That's right. That's right.
And so it's important that we have solidarity with the understanding that we can do more together than we can do apart. There needs to be, if you cannot have togetherness and you have internal fighting, you weaken yourself. Now that doesn't mean that you do not practice the First Amendment. Any kind of organization that is to succeed and is democratic, you're going to have discord, you're going to have disagreement, and you're going to have different ideas, and that is the purpose of the First Amendment, so that you can get all of the ideas on the table. If you get all of the ideas on the table, you have a better chance of getting the best idea. Does that make sense? So, what we've got, this is an enormous turnout today. When you consider where you are, you're in Richmond. And then when you look at the people themselves are saying, we've had enough. The people are saying in Richmond, in the nation, and around the world, we have had enough, and that is being recognized. Time magazine, even, the establishment publication, recognize who you are.
Right. Yes.
And that should send a message. So whenever they tell you, you don't have any goals, whenever they tell you that what is this all about, remind them of what America has promised and failed to deliver on, and how you have awakened them to this. I can tell you, every morning that the mayor woke up, I'm pretty certain he was reminded of the First Amendment and the fact that you are protesters who were strategically located.
Well,
and so what we have to do is be creative, follow our agenda, our mission, live up to it, deal with solidarity, practice solidarity, know the force of solidarity, and if we do that, we will definitely win.
yes.
We are winners.
Yes.
We are not losers like those figures that are on Monument Avenue.
All right.
All right. Tell it.
Let me say that again. We are not losers like those figures on Monument Avenue.
Bunch of clowns.
And let me tell you, some of us had our heads screwed on right when there were real heroes placed on Monument Avenue.
Right.
All right. Yes.
Someone did it, and they did it right. Now, this also told you something else about the city. The city moved quickly to remove the real heroes
Right.
and the heroines,
Uh-huh.
while they're still pushing to get money to maintain the villains.
Right.
Yes.
Now, I'm talking about culture, the force of culture. What should we do to advance a culture that promotes true democracy? That does not exist in Richmond. There is a time for a regeneration of culture. There is a time for regeneration of movement, such as the Civil Rights Movement, the anti-Vietnam movement, the abolitionist movement. There needs to be a regeneration of those objectives and those movements to fit modern times, because what we are facing is a modern brand of enslavement that we should not find acceptable at all. It should totally be objected to, and we should fight it to the end. Again, I want to thank Mark. Again, I want to thank Jason and all of you, many of the faces that I'm familiar with, and it's so good to see the evidence of solidarity in a winning movement for justice for all. Thank you all very much.